Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. We are working towards the weekend with you for a couple of hours here. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Locked and loaded. Stefan Krajisnik covers Mississippi State for the Jackson Clarion Ledger. Things are not great in Starkville at the moment. We're going to talk to Stefan about this Mississippi State baseball team that opens up a 3-game set with the Tigers tomorrow night. I got a new edition of SEC Power Rankings for baseball. 30 minutes away. Strap in. Auburn and Ole Miss play tonight. I'll get you a little primer for that. LSU made a pretty significant announcement on the football side of things that we'll open hour number 2 with. We always chat with our guy Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Package. He is with us at 2:15. So plenty to get to today. But I want to start with the Saints' schedule. We're going to get it tonight. And before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of the Saints' schedule, I just want to say for the 4,323rd time how impressive the NFL's ability to stay relevant is and to keep this rabid fan base that they have just yearning for more. This deal where they say they're going to announce the schedule on Thursday, May the 11th, but just kind of let a few nuggets just trickle out here or there, is genius. This beat writer's got this game in week 4, and here's a couple of international games, and I think they're going to be primetime in week 11. Like, it's just genius. They have this fan base, which is the entirety of the league, just hook, line, and sinker for like 10 months out of the year. I don't know that everybody's totally locked in June, but it's pretty much year-round. And tonight, they'll have that fan base, which they had hook, line, and sinker last week for the draft, locked in again. So what am I looking for with the Saints? Well, first of all, we know who they play and where. We just learned the order tonight. They'll play the NFC South, obviously. They'll play the AFC South. They'll play the NFC North. And then they'll play last year's third-place Rams, third-place Giants, and third-place Patriots. That is the Saints' schedule. We know the teams that will be coming to New Orleans. Of course, Atlanta and Carolina and Tampa will come to New Orleans. That's in the division. We know that the Bears and Lions from the North are coming to New Orleans. We know that the Jaguars and Titans from the AFC South are coming to New Orleans. And we know that the Giants are coming to New Orleans. We know they travel on the road to Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa. We know that they play the Packers and the Vikings on the road from the North. They play the Texans and Colts from the AFC South on the road, and they play the Rams on the road. That's what we know. Now, what can we glean from tonight when this announcement is made? Well, I'm not even speaking for me personally as a wuss from the South who hates cold weather. I'm talking from the perspective of NFL guys. Jacob Hester, Jeremy Hill, guys I've worked with in this room, who said one of the first things they looked at when the schedule came out is, we got to go where it's cold. Do we have to go to the cold places? And for the Saints, when you look at their road games, Atlanta's indoors and not cold. Carolina, it's cold for me, Hunt Palmer. It's not cold in the relative country that we're working with. Tampa's not cold. Green Bay is cold. But apparently, according to a Packers beat writer, that game's going to be week 3, which won't be cold. Houston, indoors, not cold. Indy, indoors, not cold. Rams, not cold. That's gorgeous out in LA, plus it's indoors. The Vikings, that ain't cold. Really, the only game you've got to worry about cold weather is New England. And I know that the Saints aren't the Saints of 10 years ago, where they've got to go out there and score 40 points, and they've got a quarterback that's smaller and from the South, and they can't play in the cold weather. No cold weather for the Saints. I know that that's not the identity of this team anymore. But the fact of the matter is that you don't really want to go play a game like they did in Cleveland this past year. It compromises everything. And I know that there are people that say, oh, it's football weather, toughen up. I mean, I listen to the Chicago folks all the time talk about bear weather. Nobody wants to be in that. Not the most diehard football fan, not the toughest offensive lineman. Nobody wants to go out there and play when it's 11 degrees. Nobody wants to go out there and play in the driving snow. It's not football weather. It's a massive inconvenience. It's a health hazard. But the Saints aren't really going to have to worry about that outside of maybe New England. And that's good. And by the way, you had Green Bay and New England, which in a bygone life 5 years ago, you go, oh, those two, you got to deal with Rodgers and Brady. Well, that's not really the case anymore, is it? And so from a weather perspective, we'll see where the Saints are headed to New England for. Maybe that's in December, and maybe it's, early on. I don't know. But they should be okay from a weather perspective. Now, what's the other thing that we can glean from tonight? We don't know for sure what teams are going to be good and aren't. What would you have thought of the Giants at this point last year? What would you have thought of the Jaguars at this point last year? And both of those teams played well. So I'm not going to sit here and give you wins and losses based on how the schedule shakes out. But I do know and have a reasonable handle on what the quarterback situations are for the teams the Saints are going to play. And a great number of the teams on the Saints schedule have really young quarterbacks. Now, I don't know if they're going to play or not, but they're there. And so sometimes if you can forecast that the young quarterback's going to be playing early, you'd like to play him early. Maybe the young quarterback's not going to play early, but they might play late. And there are some situations like that that could be on the Saints schedule. So that's one thing that I am interested in when we see the schedule tonight. Cold weather, not really an issue, but how about inexperienced quarterbacks? The Saints are going to play Atlanta twice. Desmond Ridder has been announced as a starting quarterback already. Taylor Heineke signed there But in his press conference as an introductory quarterback said, I'm here to be the backup. So Ritter's going to play. I'd kind of like to see him early. Bryce Young, we assume he's going to be the starter right out of the gate. Yeah, he might not be. I don't call the shots, but I don't think Andy Dalton is going to be the guy. I think Bryce Young is going to be the guy. And the leak that we've seen is that the Saints will play Monday night in week 2 in Bryce Young's home opener. If I'm a Saints fan, I like that. Give me the rookie quarterback in week 2. Prime time. I got a big veteran defense, an aggressive defensive head coach. Yeah, that's where I like the Panthers early. Now, you'll see him again, but week 2 is second best. I'd rather in week 1. I'll take week 2. That brings me back to the Saints costing me my survivor pool in RG3's first game. I went to New Orleans. I had the Saints in my survivor pool, and RG3 beat them. But you want to play the rookie quarterback early. Jordan Love has not been a starting NFL quarterback. He's been holding a clipboard. He's been around a little bit, but he's been holding a clipboard. And word is that the Saints are going to get him week 3. I like that. I'd like him in week 3 as opposed to Halloween. Now, the Texans are interesting because they took C.J. Stroud. Maybe Davis Mills is their starter early on. Maybe C.J. Stroud is. We won't know that tonight when we get the schedule, but something tells me that Davis Mills may be the guy at the beginning, and maybe if you get them in December, they've transitioned. I don't know what that division's going to look like. There's a lot of variables in the AFC South outside of Jacksonville at quarterback, but we'll see. You're going to play the Colts. Gardner Minshew's probably the starter there, and he's fine. Whatever. He's Gardner Minshew. Are you scared of Gardner Minshew? No, you're not. But maybe if you get them in December, they've tossed the keys to Anthony Richardson. And you know what? That is advantageous to the Saints because I don't think he's very good. So I'd rather play the Colts with Richardson at quarterback. I don't think he's going to be the quarterback in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but maybe down the road, that's your guy. And the same thing goes with Tennessee, where Will Levis is. You keep in mind, the Saints have Bryce Young on the schedule. They have C.J. Stroud on the schedule. They have Anthony Richardson on the schedule. They have Will Levis on the schedule. Now, we know that Will Levis is not the starting quarterback, and he wasn't a first-round pick, so it's not quite the same situation. But that's one I definitely want late, because if the things fall apart in Tennessee, which they could, they felt like they were kind of the class of that division, and now some teams may be overtaking them as the Derrick Henry era kind of comes to an end. Man, if I could get them late, and they may have made a transition to see what they've got in a rookie quarterback, count me way in on catching some Will Levis. Way in on that. So I like the fact that the Saints get Bryce Young early. I like the fact that they get Jordan Love early. I like the fact that they could get Desmond Ridder early. I might want to bump those AFC South teams, Texans, Colts, Titans. I might want to bump those back a little bit and see if I can't catch a little rookie quarterback who's just getting the keys tossed to him, like a 16-year-old headed out on the highway for the first time. Turning that music up real loud, thinking you own the road, and inevitably, at best, a speeding ticket. At worst, we got a collision on our hands. And if I'm the Saints, that's what I'm betting on with these young kids getting the keys at first. So, look, again, the NFL just does such an awesome job at keeping themselves in the news cycle. For me, with the Saints tonight, you look at cold weather, not a big deal, depending on where you go to New England, and what does it look like with these young quarterbacks that you're playing? Because we know the Saints don't play really many proven awesome quarterbacks, but these teams could be in a state of flux based on their draft and where the Saints catch them on a calendar. I think that's interesting, and we'll certainly react to it coming up on tomorrow's show. Let's transition to college baseball. LSU and Mississippi State will crank things up tomorrow in a 3-game set. Stefan Krajisnik covers Mississippi State. Are they looking to maybe make a coaching change after this year? We'll get his thoughts on it next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Love telling you about One Bath and Closets. Our guy David Duvall has been in this business for 3 decades. There is nothing that he has not seen. There's nothing that his crew cannot handle. They can handle a full-scale renovation of your bathroom. You call one contractor. You don't call 6 to make sure one project works. You call David Duvall and his team. They take care of it start to finish. Maybe it is a full-scale renovation. You're knocking out walls. You're doing the whole deal in that bathroom to totally change the look and feel of your bathroom. Maybe it's something simple, not as time-consuming, a little more cost-effective, and that'd be just a tub-to-shower conversion to change the look and the feel of your bathroom that way. David Duvall and his team can do it. On the closet side, how much better would your life situation be in the morning if you had a custom closet? His stuff over here, her stuff over here, customized with cubbies, drawers, mirrors, lights. They can do it at One Bath and Closet. And if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets, they're not going to charge you to rip out your current closet. They're not going to charge you for the installation of a new one. They're just going to charge you for the cost of that unit. That's the promise they make to our listeners. One Bath and Closets, David Duvall and his team, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. You can find all their work and request a free consultation at onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045 ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045 ESPN.
Turn my music high, 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 high. Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. from the original Walk-Ons on Burbank. Colucci time as well. That's Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday from Walk-Ons on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tigers welcome in Mississippi State. 2 SEC weekends to go. It'll be LSU and State tomorrow, 7:30 first pitch from the box. Stefan Krajisnik covers Mississippi State for the Jackson Clarion Ledger. Good enough to join us on this Thursday. Stefan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. Let's set the stage before we start talking about this weekend. Clearly, Mississippi State wins the national championship 2 years ago. What was the feeling around the program, fan base, coaching staff, players at this point last year as they were finishing up a 9-21 SEC record and just a disappointment, but just 1 year removed from a national championship?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of good and bad, right? Just because, you're coming off that high of, a program that's, really storied and successful, reaching a new peak, right? As good as Mississippi State baseball has been, that was their first time, actually getting a national championship. And, to some extent, I think some people maybe saw an understanding of, what it's like to win or what it's like to have that season after a national championship, especially in this transfer portal era. I mean, you think about how late into June and into early July Mississippi State was playing. They were kind of behind on getting some transfers and things of that nature going into that offseason after 2021. So you're thinking, all right, kind of a tough spot. You're asking, role players from the year before to kind of step up, be some leaders. They've struggled in those roles. And you kind of take 2021 with a grain, or 2022 with a grain of salt and say, all right, time to go back into the portal, time to get those, top 10 recruiting classes back on campus and see where you can go from there. And so there was maybe some nerves of, okay, what's going to kind of happen as, Chris Lemonis and his staff enter, what should be a bounce back year. And as you've seen, it's been another tough year for Mississippi State. And now that nervous energy has turned into, angst and anger and a lot of disappointment in Starkville.
Yeah, I mean, since the championship, now they're playing 278 baseball in SEC play, 15-39, 6-18 this year. And I saw the quote that Chris Lemonis had going back after Saturday's game against Arkansas, and I'll just read it for my audience listenership. I know that you obviously heard it, but it says, "Thank you to the fans. I've had so many people reach out. I know so many people are pissed. I understand that people are pissed because it's not acceptable for the fans that show up every day, the fans that support, and there's so many of them. We appreciate it." What did you take from that quote about the situation in Starkville right now?
I think the situation, kind of what I took from that quote, I guess, is, Chris Lemonis understands, that fans are mad. He understands, the disappointment for a program that, should be contending for a national championship year in and year out. And I think at this point, what really is there left for him to say? I mean, you're kind of at the point where you can't really salvage this season. There's only so much you can do. I mean, you can make a amazing run in the SEC tournament, which I think no one expects. So I think at this point, instead of him throwing players under the bus or things of that nature, I think, or trying to make excuses, I think his strategy is, all right, I'm going to acknowledge that everyone's mad and they should be mad and kind of give them a reason to feel that, what they're feeling is the right thing to express and to feel. So I think that's kind of what I took from that quote. He had another quote on Sunday where, he said something along the lines of, the question was, how do you kind of, go moving forward, things of that nature. And he said, well, I told the players I'm going to coach them as hard as I can, whether it be for today or for tomorrow or for next year, for the future. So, that was the first glimpse you got of it. I think he understands, the true pressure that's on him and this, the hot seat underneath him. So it is kind of interesting to see, what a coach does when you're at this point where, a lot of fans want you gone. It's not clear what the administration wants. It's unclear, if he's the guy that can, still right the ship and get Mississippi State back to where it was. So it's kind of this weird in between where, he's answering questions when he himself probably feels a lot of uncertainty as well.
Had the problems from last year bled into this year, or is it a different blend?
To me, it's been a lot of the same problems. I mean, you're seeing a pitching staff that just is not performing at a high level whatsoever. I mean, they're about to finish last in the SEC again in ERA. They're walking hitters left and right. They don't trust, really, aside from a couple guys, anyone out of the bullpen. I mean, they went ahead and fired their pitching coach a few weeks ago. I mean, Chris Lemonis does stay, and they bring him back. It's going to be really interesting to see who he can bring in as a pitching coach because, he's in a tough spot. Mississippi State, in theory, should be able to go out and get any pitching coach in the nation that they want, with the exception of maybe a few schools, right? I mean, you look at what LSU was able to do, go to the MLB and get a pitching coach. That's the level that Mississippi State thinks that they can be at. But if Chris Lemonis comes back and you're looking at that saying, all right, you got one more year left to prove it, is there a pitching coach at that high of a level that wants to come in and go immediately under that fire, right? So That's been the issue. It's been the pitching, and now you're looking at it and saying, all right, how do you fix this? Does there have to be a whole new staff to fix this? Do you go into the portal with the current staff that you have and bring in a couple guys and hope that you land a high-caliber pitching coach? That's kind of the root of the issues, and it's kind of tough to see what formula exactly can fix that going into next season.
The parallels between this and LSU's football program post-2019 are just one after the other. It was just very difficult for Ed Ogeron to go hire 2 coordinators the year after they went 500 because everyone was looking at it going, this could be a one-year deal, and they ended up with a couple of guys that were way down the list. It's just a tough spot. What has been your perspective of the attitude of the players and how they're handling things?
I really think, especially when it comes to the offense, I really think players have been handling it well. I mean, to some point, right, if you're going up to the plate and you're scoring 5 runs, you know that your pitching staff's about to give up 3 or 4 in the bottom half of that inning. It has to get exhausted, right? And really, from the pitching, it hasn't felt like they've given up, right? It's felt like they've just struggled. And from the offense, it's felt like they've been the only chance this team has stayed in some games. I mean, they competed at Tennessee, right, until that last game of the series. They competed, in that Friday game against Arkansas, the Sunday game against Arkansas. I mean, there have been some tough games, where they've lost just because, their bullpen down the stretch kind of lets them down, but the offense has kind of, kept them in some of these ball games. Saturday against Arkansas, I should say, here at Duty Noble Field, when they lost, I think the final score was 14-2. They got run ruled. That was the first time this year where you really sensed that, this team kind of gave up. And they were down big early, and kind of the energy was just out of the stadium. And Chris Lemonis felt that, said that after the game. He felt like some of that effort went away. So that you could kind of tell that, the mental exhaustion of what this season has brought is kind of starting to come to a point where you have games like you saw on Saturday. And it's going to be really interesting to see how those players respond now going into a really hostile environment. If LSU goes up 3-0 in the first inning, does Mississippi State have any chance to come back, or are they at the point where they're just going to kind of, roll over and cruise into the off season? It's going to be, it's a tough weekend for them, and players, their mentality is going to be really put to the test.
Stefan Krajisnik covers Mississippi State for the Jackson Clarion Ledger, joins us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. What's been the strength of the Mississippi State offense, the brightest spot of this team?
Yeah, they have a really nice blend of patience along with power, right? Like, they're not striking out a lot, and they're walking a lot. So they're seeing a lot of pitches, and then you look at guys like Hunter Hines, Dakota Jordan, Cole Ledbetter. I mean, guys up and down the lineup that have a lot of pop, right? And to some point, if you're sitting in a dugout and the first, 5 or 6 guys sitting ahead of you are seeing a lot of pitches, giving you a better scouting report while you're in the game, you're going up there knowing what you're looking for. And when Mississippi State's offense is rolling, you'll see, a guy gets a base hit, a guy gets a walk, and then a guy comes up their first pitch, just turns on a pitch because he knows what's coming. He's got a sense of what's coming. They're about to be, and I don't have the numbers in front of me exactly again, but they're going to be the first or just the second Mississippi State offense ever to have 90-plus home runs and exceed a certain number of walks. That's the number I can't think of off the top of my head. But they got this power to go with this patience. It's really made, for a nice mix that really wears down the opposing pitching staff. And when those guys get tired, that's when Mississippi State really pounces and kind of gets some of those long balls to roll.
I don't know if y'all have talked to Coach Lemonis today. Jay Johnson met with the Baton Rouge media like an hour ago and laid out his weekend rotation. If you don't have Mississippi State's plan for the weekend, what do you think their pitching plan is to start? I know that it's been just about different every week.
Yeah, they'll probably roll out Cade Smith on Friday, and LSU people will probably remember him because he's been around for a few years.
Yeah.
So he'll go on Friday, I would imagine, and Landon Gardnerman a Saturday, or a Memphis transfer will probably start on Saturday, and D'Angelo Sinjay, their switch pitcher freshman, will probably go on Sunday. That's kind of what they've rolled out the last few weeks. At this point, just looking at the staff, I don't think they have too many other options where even when those guys are struggling, they don't really have anyone else to turn to. So that's the 3 that I would expect. So that Sunday game could be a lot of fun, depending on which version of Sinjay shows up. I mean, he's been high and low, kind of what you would expect from a freshman, but anytime there's a guy that can throw with both arms, it makes for a fun time.
He's something to watch on TV. I'm excited to see him in person. Is there a pitcher out of the bullpen that Chris Lemonis will go to if State gets a lead, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, that he feels like can get it done?
Yeah, it'll be one of 3 guys. Nate Dome is a transfer from Ball State. He got injured in that Auburn series a few weeks ago, and immediately started kind of grabbing his elbow. Everyone expected the worst. He came back in that Arkansas series. Gave up a home run, but looked pretty decent. He's one guy that he trusts. Aaron Nixon is a transfer from Texas. A couple of years ago, he was an All-American freshman, kind of struggled last year at Texas and came in here to State, and has been pretty good this season. And Casey Hunt is, kind of a guy that LSU people probably will remember from he's been at State a few years now. So those three are kind of the guys that, if Mississippi State has the lead, it'll be one of those three that comes in. And then outside of that, there's really no one that, Lemonis can consistently trust.
Been kind of that way with LSU in the back end of the bullpen as well. Really, the entire staff after Paul Skeen. So it could be some fireworks in the late innings this weekend at the box. One more, Stefan. Appreciate your time. Just a snippet on Mississippi State spring football as it comes to the close and kind of the beginning of the Arnett era. What was a storyline from the football side of things this spring?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is Kevin Barbay and this offense that he's bringing in, right? I mean, it's a complete shift from the air raid. You're going to see so much more running, whether it's true handoffs or whether it's, guys, an inside receiver coming across for, a jet sweep, something like that. I mean, you'll see some trick plays, a lot more play action in this offense kind of open that passing attack. And it really, watching it, you kind of see that it is an offense that's only had 13 practices together, right? Like you see there's still a little rusty. Will Rogers has yet to go under center, right? He's still lining up the shotgun because that's what he's been doing in the past few years. So there's still some rust that needs to kind of come off this offense as they learn this new system. But for the most part, it's been fun to watch just because, Kevin Barbay said that his offense is going to revolve around the 11 best players on the field and making sure the best players get the ball in their hands. And I think, the last few years, it's felt like Tulu Griffin, the guy who's, been an All-American kick returner, hasn't really had a chance to shine in the offense being an outside receiver in the air raid. Now they're moving him into the slot and getting him some handoffs and just making sure he gets the ball in his hands. So it's going to be interesting to see, how much more explosive the offense can be, even though they're not necessarily throwing it as much as they have been in year past. It is interesting to just watch a guy like Will Rogers, who, has been labeled a system quarterback by a lot of people, kind of just go through the shift of going from, Mike Leach's air raid offense to this completely different offense with Kevin Barbay. It's going to be fun to see what this season brings for Mississippi State, especially on offense.
He's Stefan Krajisnik, beat writer for the Jackson Clarion Ledger, covering the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Stefan, great stuff. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, have a great weekend, guys.
You do the same. Always love talking to Stefan. He can do it all three sports: basketball, football, baseball. He's all over all of it up there in Starkville. Some of the statistics, and we'll get into some of this tomorrow as I preview Mississippi State. Like Casey Hunt's a guy who's been around a while, and clearly that name sticks out to me. Well, it's my name. But like he's at 32 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts. That's really good. He's got good stuff. The guy throws really hard. His ERA is 10. Not SEC ERA. The ERA for the season is 10. They got real issues on the mound, and LSU ought to be able to bust out of whatever funk ailed them over the weekend in Auburn. But we'll preview Mississippi State a little bit more in detail tomorrow on this show. When we come back, I got a fresh batch of SEC Power Rankings. Come back with us.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Love telling you about LWCC. There's a shining light in our state, and they want to shine that light on great people and great businesses and great nonprofits in our state that are doing awesome work. And that's why we're telling you about folks like Dr. Robert Jackson, who's a champion of Louisiana. Dr. Jackson is up there in Northwest Louisiana just doing unbelievable philanthropic work for his part of our state. He founded the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy. It's the oldest free clinic and pharmacy in Northwest Louisiana. And it's so vital to this state because we've got one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. And his clinic operates at no cost to the patient. Dr. Jackson's certainly a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell their story just like Dr. Jackson. So go to lwcc.com/champions. You can see all the champions that we've profiled over the last 11 months, and you can also nominate a champion of Louisiana so we can tell their story, and we want you to do it. So go to lwcc.com/champions to nominate a champion of Louisiana. Dr. Robert Jackson is a champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious...
In for live play-by-play this weekend when the Boston Red Sox host the St. Louis Cardinals. Saturday at 3 p.m. and Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Joe Healy from D1 Baseball coming up in 45 minutes, previewing the SEC weekend. Highway to Hoover podcast. He and Mark Etheridge is awesome. Appointment listening for me every single week, and always enjoy our chats with Joe. So we'll do that at 2:15 today. But we'll get to our SEC power rankings here, as we do just about weekly on these airwaves. Makes you all very upset. I apologize, but we'll dive into it nonetheless. Number 14, I got the worst team in the SEC as the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They are 9th in the conference in on-base percentage. They are 12th in the conference in runs scored, and that's all the good news. They're 14th in ERA. They're the worst in terms of walks allowed. They've been swept 4 times. And if you just heard Stefan there in that last segment, the effort may have dipped last weekend as Arkansas ran them off the field. There were fly balls dropping in the outfield. There were some pretty feeble at-bats. The stadium is sensing a little tension. It might be good for them to get on the road and play in a hostile environment that might bring them a little excitement and exuberance and up their level of play, but it's a pretty good team that they're playing this weekend too. They are fighting to try to get to Hoover. But as I mentioned, since they won the national championship, they are 15-39 in Southeastern Conference play. That is .278 baseball. It's not good in Starkville. They're the worst team in the league to me. I got Ole Miss at 13. I know they've got 3 guys that can really hit. Calvin Harris hit 4 homers in a game on Sunday. Kemp Alderman's having an all-SEC caliber year. Jacob Gonzalez is going to be the 3rd or 4th or 5th pick in the draft. But they're not any good. They've won 1 series of 8. And in that series, they beat Georgia. They won Game 3 8-7. It was by this razor-thin margin. If they don't win that, they don't win a series of the first 8. I like some of the pieces to the puzzle. The whole of this is awful. So they're 13th. Missouri, I've got 12th. They did beat Ole Miss last weekend. They do have a sweep of Tennessee on their resume, even though they haven't been very good since then. They're last in the conference in batting average, on-base percentage, runs, hits. They've struck out the fourth most time. They can't hit a lick. If you remember the big pitching breakdown I did last week when I was comparing LSU to all these teams and how often do teams hold SEC teams to 4 runs or less in a game, and there were some that were doing it like half the time, like 11 out of 21 at that point, and then 3 of them were always Missouri. Everyone holds Missouri under 4 runs, under 5 runs. They can't hit at all, but they have won some weekends. So credit to them, they're 12th. Number 11, they might be a little bit better than this, but this is where it gets real bunched up. I've got Alabama at number 11. They're 33-16 overall. They're 11-13 in conference play, which very much puts them in the NCAA picture. They pitched it awesome against Vanderbilt last week. Against Vanderbilt last week, as their coach has been fired hours before they were supposed to play game 1 on that Thursday. And in those 3 games, they allowed 2 runs, 4 runs, and 1 run against Vanderbilt. Do they have enough juice down the stretch against a manageable schedule? They're at A&M, which is going to be tough, but it's not one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. And then they play Ole Miss at home. Their RPI is 15. If they can just limp to the finish line and win maybe just 2 more games, I think they get into the NCAA tournament. Certainly, if they win 3 out of the 6, they're going to make the NCAA tournament. So I've got them at 11. I've got Auburn at 10. They've been lower, but look, they're 11-13 in the league, just like Bama, and they've won 3 straight series. And they've won 4 of their 8 series in league play. They've won half the series they've played. I got to give Tommy Vale some credit. It doesn't look awesome, but neither did Jared Poche, and that's the comp I gave you last week. And Vale has done a really good job at pitching for a team that had no pitching for the first 2 months of the season. In the last 4 SEC starts, Tommy Vale, against Bama, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and LSU, has thrown 20 2/3 innings and given up 3 earned runs. He's stabilized them a little bit. And I think there was some skepticism in Butch Thompson in moving him off of game 1 last week against LSU and putting him on Saturday and basically waving the white flag against Skeens. Well, guess what? Skeens shut you out and struck out 15, and the next day your ace went out there, and he didn't pitch long into the game, but he got Auburn off to a good start, and they were able to win the ballgame. So it doesn't look good to kind of wave the white flag and go, yeah, we can't beat that guy, but Auburn's in the business right now of winning any game they can win to get into the NCAA tournament, and it turned out being the right thing. So I got Auburn at 10. I've got Georgia at 9. That's higher than I've had them at any point this year, I think. They're 28-21 on the season. They're 10-14 in league play, but they've got some good series wins. They beat Kentucky 2 out of 3. That's RPI number 1. They beat Arkansas in a sweep. That's an RPI top 5 team. They beat Tennessee 2 out of 3. Like, that's impressive. To beat Tennessee, to beat Arkansas, and to beat Kentucky, that's good for Georgia. Their offense is middle of the pack. Their pitching is lower third. They've got Charlie Condon bashing 25 homers, and after that, it's a little iffy, but they're winning some games, so I'll give Georgia the 9 spot. At number 8, I've got Texas A&M. They're 11-13 in league play. They've got 4 regulars hitting over 310 in SEC games, which is pretty good. And since they started 1-5, they're 10-8 in league play. So they've played a little bit better after this tough start against LSU, where they lost 2 out of 3, and then they got swept by Tennessee. They've won series over Kentucky and Florida. Their problem is pitching. It has been, and it will continue to be. Texas A&M, listen to this stat on A&M. They have had 9 guys start an SEC game on the mound. 9. That is way too many. And to just have nothing to settle on. They don't pitch it very well. So that's why they're down there at number 8. Number 7, I got Tennessee. They're 12-12 in league play. You heard the stat yesterday a million times. They're 10-2 at home. They're 2-10 on the road. They just don't travel worth a flip. They're 4th in the league in on-base percentage. They're 3rd in the league in slugging. They're 4th in the league in runs. All really good numbers offensively. But the offense hasn't traveled. They went to Missouri. They scored 1 run, 4 runs, 1 run. I know it was cold. That's terrible. They came to LSU. In the 2 games they lost, they scored 2 and 4. They went to Arkansas. They got swept. They scored 2 runs, 3 runs, 2 runs. They just don't score when they go on the road. They lost 2 games at Georgia. They scored 1 and 4. Then they get into that little ballpark at Knoxville, and they start banging it all over the place. That's why it's really important for them to try to get a host site. And to do that, they're probably going to need to win 5 of 6 in SEC play against a tough finish. It's hard to do, but it is doable. We'll see if Tennessee can get there. Number 6, I'll mea culpa a little bit. I will a little bit. Not fully. Not 100% mea culpa, like 70% mea culpa on Kentucky. Just based on one weekend. Kentucky's 14-10 in the league. Their RPI is 1. If they get to 17 league wins, they're hosting. They got to get 3 more games. They were impressive against South Carolina. But still, they were swept by Vanderbilt. They lost series to A&M. They lost series to LSU. The series they've won outside of the South Carolina series against a very beat-up South Carolina team are series wins against Georgia, Missouri, Alabama, and Mississippi State. That I'm not going to give you a ton of kudos for. But they are winning a lot of games, and their RPI is 1. So I don't love the composition of the team. I don't like it in this era of baseball. But coming off a sweep of South Carolina, I've got to move them up a little bit. I've got them at 6. I still, even though Kentucky swept South Carolina, I got South Carolina ahead of them based on what South Carolina can be if they get healthy. South Carolina is 36-12 on the season. They're 14-9 in league play. Their pitching was awful against Kentucky last week. But I still trust the parts of this team, this South Carolina team that swept Florida, that played LSU so tough in those 2 days. Petrie's phenomenal. Cassis is phenomenal. And there's talent in the staff. Standards is up and down, I get it, but there's talent in the staff if they're healthy. But I had them at 1 a month ago, and now I don't, obviously. So I've got South Carolina at 5. The next 2 teams, 4 and 3, play each other this weekend. Number 4, I've got Florida. They're 15-9 in league play. They're second in the league in batting average. They're second in the league in slugging. Listen to this stat on the meat of their order. Wyatt Langford, Josh Rivera, and Jack Caglione, that 3 in the top of their order, have combined for 53 homers this year. 53 homers from those 3 guys. Sproat and Waldrop both have SEC RAs over 5. They're going to get drafted in the top 60, 70 picks when it's their time, but they haven't been great in SEC play. So that's a team I've had at number 1 before, and now I've got them down at number 4 because they've lost some series. They're 15-9 in league play. The RPI is still pretty good, but they're on the back end of the top 8 bubble as opposed to some of the teams ahead of them that are looking towards the top end. They'll play Vandy this weekend. It's in Gainesville, and I got Vandy at number 3. Vandy is 35-13. They're 17-7 and tied atop the SEC. They swept Kentucky. They beat South Carolina 2 out of 3, and that's really good. But they lost a series to Bama. They got swept by Tennessee. And what concerns me is their offense. They're 12th in the league in on-base percentage and 12th in the league in slugging. They're not getting on base enough, and they're not hitting enough doubles and home runs. And that's why you see them falter the way they did a couple weeks ago because they don't score. Or last week against Alabama because they didn't score. And so that's the issue. But their pitching's very good, and they've got a real weapon in the 3 spot in Devin Futrell, who's as good at number 3 as there is in the league. So I've got Vandy at 3. So what do I have at number 2? Do I have the team that's tied atop the SEC with Vanderbilt? Or do I have LSU at number 2? I got Arkansas at number 2. 36-12, 17-7, tied atop the SEC. 3 of the last 4 weekends, they've swept opponents. They swept Mississippi State. They swept A&M. They swept Tennessee. 3 of the last 4 weekends. But the other one, they got swept by Georgia. That's not very good. Brady Tigert's back. He's not going to start a game this weekend, but he is back and pitching, which is good. The problem is Hunter Holland, who y'all remember from Baton Rouge, who tied LSU in knots as a left-handed pitcher in the first game of that series, in his last 3 starts, has given up 13 earned runs. His velocity's down. He's given up runs. He might be tired. So what I want you to know is I went through this exercise before I put LSU at number 1, where they're the only team that's left. But when I went through this exercise, I'm going, man, you go through the 10-weekend grind of this SEC, everybody's got warts. Arkansas, their ace is faltering. He's given up a ton of runs. They got swept by Georgia. Vanderbilt is almost last in the league in 2 vital offensive categories. Florida's top 2 pitchers have ERAs over 5. South Carolina is really banged up and got swept last week. That's teams 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this deal. Kentucky's last in the league in hitting home runs. Before last week, they didn't have any impressive series wins. Tennessee is 2-10 on the road in league play. That's the top 7 outside of LSU. So, yeah, LSU didn't look good on offense last week against Auburn. But LSU's got the biggest weapon in the league in Skeens. And the offense has been very good outside of 2 games last weekend against Auburn. So nobody is looking awesome. You have to go to Wake Forest to try to find the most bulletproof resume. I don't know how good that ACC schedule lines up against what LSU and Arkansas and Vanderbilt and South Carolina, Kentucky are doing and Florida's doing in the SEC. I don't know. We'll find out. But everybody's got issues as I continue to roll through this thing, and certainly LSU does, no doubt. But I'm going to put the most stock in the fact that LSU has the ace that gives them a decided advantage every time they start a weekend. And that's why I've got them at the top where I have it previously. Because as I look to try to rank this and differentiate somehow between Florida, South Carolina, and Kentucky, I see the good, but I also see the significant issues. And they're there. They just are. LSU's got them too in the pitching staff. The offense is pretty good, and the ace is awesome. So that's my SEC power rankings. I've got LSU 1, Arkansas 2, Vanderbilt and Florida at 3 and 4, then South Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee 5, 6, 7, A&M at 8, Georgia at 9, Auburn at 10, Bama at 11, Missouri at 12. At the 13th spot, I've got Ole Miss, and bringing up the rear, our visitors for the weekend from Starkville, that's Mississippi State. Those are your SEC power rankings here as we enter the 9th weekend of SEC play. When we come back, we'll get you ready for tonight in the Southeastern Conference. Joe Healy coming up in about 25 minutes from SEC Extra. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home in Baton Rouge. Operator, won't you put me on through? Gotta send my love down to
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the
On Friday's OTB, we got a big one, boys. We got Chipper Jones join us at 8:30. Brent Rooker at 9:30. Rivs Huey stopping by for some champagne shenanigans. And final preview of Tigers, Bulldogs in the box. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Only one game in the SEC tonight. It's Auburn and Ole Miss. I believe that's from the Plains. And it's massive for Ole Miss. They're trying to get to Hoover. They're going to have to beat Mississippi State and Missouri outright to get there. They're tied with Mississippi State right now, who's in Baton Rouge this weekend, and they're a game behind Missouri. So they're going to have to be 2 games better than Missouri the rest of the way. Auburn is holding Tommy Vail tonight. Not that he's going to go out there and throw 8 shutout innings, or it was very likely to, but he's a solid pitcher that's been very good the last couple of weeks. So if Ole Miss wants to make it to Hoover, they need to get off to a good start tonight, because they're going to have to get into Hoover and win the whole thing to get in the NCAA tournament, which I don't think is going to happen. But Auburn's case is a little more interesting. They're 11-13. They probably need to win 3 more games to get in the NCAA tournament. 13's iffy. Especially with kind of what their resume looks like right now and some of the non-conference stuff. But they can get there. Ole Miss is very winnable. And if you can get 2 games here, then you go to the last weekend only needing 3 to get in the NCAA tournament, and you play Missouri. So it's laid out. It's the game's in Oxford, so I messed that up. But it's in Oxford, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss has to win. I'm curious to see what the crowd looks like. Probably not very good on a Thursday for a team that has underachieved this wildly. But if Ole Miss loses tonight, you can kind of start shoveling the dirt. Not that the dirt's not already being shoveled, but you might start patting it down, because they are going to be in big, big trouble. They need LSU in a big way this weekend to take care of State. And then, we'll see what Missouri and Auburn do next weekend. So just one game in Southeastern Conference play tonight. And LSU can effectively end Mississippi State's chances of making it to Hoover coming up this weekend. If you go ahead and sweep them, they're toast. And I think that would lock LSU into a national seed. So a lot to be decided this weekend between LSU and Mississippi State. If you missed any of the first hour of the show, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. All of our shows are archived there every single day, plus Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and on YouTube. Open with the Saints schedule and what I think about it as we wait for the unveil tonight. Stefan Krajisnik from the Jackson Clarion Ledger talking Mississippi State baseball at 1:15, and some SEC baseball power rankings. I finally put LSU at number 1, so direct your hate this way. Things don't go that well this weekend. A lot to get to in hour number 2, including Joe Healy, but we start with a big announcement from LSU football that we'll start hour 2 with. Come back after SportsCenter.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks, and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco, voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco, voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. We've got a Game 6 NBA playoff doubleheader on ESPN tonight, starting with the Celtics and 76ers. Philadelphia leads the series 3-2 for Coach Doc Rivers.
You can't be surprised also, and I tell my guys, with how hard the other teams are going to play. Like, you just can't be. Desperation is an amazing thing, right? And so you got to really play through that through execution and focus.
You can hear more of that Doc Rivers interview during our NBA on ESPN radio coverage, which starts at 7 Eastern. The second game tonight, also on ESPN TV, Nuggets and Suns, with Denver leading the series 3-2. The full 2023 NFL schedule will be unveiled tonight, but already we know the new season will kick off Thursday night, September 7th, when the Super Bowl champion Chiefs host the Lions. 4 days later on Monday Night Football, new Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers makes his debut at home against the Bills. And our Field Yates reports the Seahawks restructure wideout Tyler Lockett's contract to give the team $5.7 million in cap space.
How would you love a chance to save some money on car insurance? Geico can help. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote and get started seeing how much you could save.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on this Thursday, working towards the weekend. Hope your work week is going well. It'll be a busy weekend out at Alec Box Stadium. Late game tomorrow, 7:30 first pitch, then 6 o'clock on Saturday. I'll be on the call with Lynn Rollins for that one for the SEC Network Plus, and then Sunday they'll crank it up on Mother's Day at 1 o'clock. I wanted to get to this story because I think it's really cool. I think a lot of times we, on the outside, focus far more on what goes on in the course of competition in college sports. What happens on the football field, on the basketball court, on the baseball field, that's where we focus most of our attention. And that's what I'm comfortable with. I don't like talking about off-the-court things, legal matters, that kind of stuff. I just don't like getting into. I like talking about the sports. I'm far more prone to talk about what pitch hitter they should have gone to or whether or not they should have gone for 4th and 2 or the shot selection on the last possession than I am some sort of buyout clause and legal battle that's mired the athletic program. I don't like talking about that stuff. But I understand that there is a lot more that goes into the college student athlete's life and time in college athletics than just playing the sport. And LSU made an announcement today that was really, really cool. 11 LSU football players are going to travel to Senegal to study abroad. Got the names of the student athletes, and some you'll be very familiar with. Noah Cain, running back. Chris Hilton, wide receiver. Emory Jones, Malik Neighbors, West Weeks, Josh Williams, Makai Wingo, Bo Bordelon, Javen Nichols, Fitzgerald West, Slade Roy. This crew is going to go study abroad in Senegal. Now, this is really, really cool, as I've said, and it's going to be an incredible life experience for them. I'll get into some of the details of what it is they're going to do in Senegal. But at the same time, I'm going to have to add my color to it in terms of my perspective of it. I never studied abroad. I have a lot of friends that did. I know a lot of people that did. Very popular thing in summers for college students and an incredible opportunity. I am pathetic. It is a massive character flaw in me that doesn't have innate curiosity about other cultures. I get made fun of constantly by friends because I thought it was ridiculous that a couple of my buddies that were on the baseball team our senior year missed 2 of our most important games to go on the senior trip abroad to Europe. Because to me, playing Lakeside and Spring Hill was far more important than going to misbehave in Rome. Like, that's a me problem. That's because 99.9% of the population would say, no, you got a chance to go to Rome with your class, go. I was in Sibley, Louisiana, and Spring Hill, Louisiana, grinding high school baseball. And quite frankly, if every trip I went to just involved playing a couple rounds of golf, eating a steak, and drinking some beers, maybe a beach involved, I'd be just fine. I just don't have innate curiosity about going to see Asian culture, South American culture, European culture, in this case, African culture. That doesn't, for some reason, there's no intrigue, there's no curiosity, which is a flaw. I have it. But I do recognize that this is a life experience that not a lot of people get, and that LSU, in the course of offering these football players the opportunity and education, a chance at high-level football with all the great things that LSU can do for the student athlete, this is another one that's really cool. And they're going to learn a lot about I don't even know what the word is, Senegalian, the culture of Senegal. They'll get an opportunity to do that, meet some people from around there, to use some of the phraseology from this press release that we got, which the Center for Community Engagement, Learning, and Leadership is the group that's collaborating with LSU to put this together. Their approach is going to integrate academic context, historical and cultural site visits, collaboration with local neoprofits, deliver excellence in student learning outcomes, and while also addressing the needs of the host communities. Just kind of a perspective of how things are in a different country. And Brian Kelly's got a great quote here that says, one of the things that I've tried to do since moving to LSU is not only set the standards and process of building a program that graduating champions is the tagline that Brian Kelly uses, but to help our players establish an identity outside of football, to get an opportunity to study abroad is an experience that student athletes really don't get the chance to do. So for our players to be able to participate in this unique educational program is something I think will have a lifelong impact on them. I want our players to have the opportunity to see things from a different perspective and to really take ownership in their studies and understand there's much more out there than just being a football player. And there's more to that quote, but I think that's really interesting. And I don't know how much of an influence Brian Kelly had on this. I don't know whether or not Ed Ogeron or Les Miles or Nick Saban or Jerry DiNardo or Curly Holman, I don't know how much coach involvement or input was in any of this. Maybe some players have gone abroad in years past, and I just never knew it because they didn't put out a press release. But LSU wanted to make this a big deal and did, and Brian Kelly was very forward and quoted a couple times in this as saying it's important. And this, to me, is a recruiting tool. College basketball teams every 4 years get to do this during the summer. We saw LSU go play in Australia. We've seen different teams travel to Europe. I think Johnny Jones had a team that did that. And that's great for them to be able to do that. And this is really, really good, too. I can't tell you that I'm going to be on the first plane to the Senegal or Brazil or London or Beijing or wherever the study abroad program may be. But for these guys to get a chance to do it is really, really cool. And if that's something that LSU can put into a recruiting pitch, that you're going to have the opportunity, if you take care of the things that you need to take care of in the classroom and put yourself in a position to do something like this that could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, we can make that happen for you. And again, I don't know if it's something that has been offered in the past or not, but I feel like Brian Kelly coming from a place like Notre Dame, that my guess is they prioritize stuff like this. That may be just another ad that Brian Kelly brings to the football program. And this press release, you can just kind of read the emotion coming out. So I'm very, very interested to hear from some of these guys when they come back. I think if you talk to Mekhi Wingo, Noah Kane, you talk to Emory Jones or Wes Weeks right now, it's like, yeah, I just can't wait to go see another part of the world that I've never seen. And that's true, but also not all that interesting. What their experiences are once they get over there and what they can tell us when they come back, I think is really cool, because what do we think about football players? If you start with the academic calendar, you show up in August for camp, and you're in camp, and it's not pleasant. It's hot. There's 2-a-days. There's early mornings. And then you're in your grind of a season. Your body breaks down. You're in class. You're at practice. You're in film. You're game planning. You're traveling 6 times. And then that ends, and you get to January. And you've got off-season lifting and maybe surgery or recuperation from that. And then you get into spring ball, which runs you through April. And then you're about to show up and report for off-season activities, which are sprints and weightlifting and all that kind of stuff, off-season workout, voluntary stuff with school that you're doing the whole time. There's just not a lot of time for these student athletes. So for them to be able to go for a week and see a different part of the world is really, really cool. I just can't add a lot of color to it because I never did it, and it's not something that's high on my list. Send me down the road to Orange Beach, and I'll catch some golf and beer on the beach, and I'll be just fine. But this is awesome for that crew, which I think is fantastic. So can't wait to hear from those guys when they come back. All right, plenty to get to in hour number 2. One of my favorite parts of the week is when we chat with our guy Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. Huge, huge, huge weekend in the Southeastern Conference is afoot, and we can now really start talking about realistic possibilities for the postseason in terms of top 8s, in terms of hosts, in terms of at-large. So can't wait to get Joe's thoughts when we come back.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents.
Sandgrove, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time. We're at Ruffino's, and we start at 10 a.m. with Jimmy Ott's Game Time. Doug Thompson from the LSU Sports Network is with us, and Kyle Peterson from ESPN. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hour 2 here on this Thursday. It is 2:15 on Thursday. That means time to head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline and chat with our guy Joe Healy from D1 Baseball. He and Mark Etheridge head up the SEC extra package over there. Joe, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Believe it or not, I mean, we're what? This is the last regular weekend of SEC play. I say regular, meaning most of the series are Friday to Sunday. Next week, we obviously have the short week, and then we're in Hoover. Hard to believe, but here we are.
Speaking of Hoover, I listen to Highway to Hoover every single week, and I know that y'all have got some cool stuff going on when you and Mark are in Hoover for the week. Let our listeners know, because I know that a lot of LSU fans make the trip over to Hoover, and y'all are going to be hanging out at a brewery.
Yeah, Brock's Gap Brewing Company across the street from the Hoover Met. If you're at the Hoover Met, you're basically there. They've been great partners of ours all season. They sponsor our podcast, Highway to Hoover, and we're doing a live show. So, yeah, if you're listening and you know you're going to be in Hoover, LSU's looking like it's probably not going to play until Wednesday. But if you're in town Monday evening, Mark and I are doing a live show from Brock's Gap, 7 o'clock, Monday, May 22nd. Tickets are $15, but in that, we'll be sending out a form to everyone who has a ticket. You can ask us a question that we'll answer on stage. So you'll have that opportunity. You'll get a free beer from Brock's Gap Brewing Company, draft beer of the selections they have on tap. And then $5 and that goes to Arts and Autism, which is a local organization working with children with autism that's near and dear to Mark's heart. So there's some value in that $15 in addition to just getting into the show.
No question about it. LSU always travels very, very well to Hoover, and now with Mississippi State and Ole Miss kind of maybe on the outside looking in, LSU probably going to be the most represented team in Hoover. So get on out there and check out the guys from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. All right, Mark, let's go. Joe, let's go back to last week before we get into this week, which is really, really fascinating. More concerning series loss for you. Was it South Carolina being swept by Kentucky? Was it Tennessee losing to Georgia? Or was it Vanderbilt losing 2 out of 3 to Florida?
I think it's probably – that's tough. The thing about Tennessee is that they're just two completely different teams home and away, and I think that's kind of who they are. I think we know that. So on one hand, that wasn't all that surprising, even though Georgia, is a team that kind of is what it is at this point, right? They cobble it together on the mound. They can swing the bats pretty well. They're kind of like Auburn in that regard. I just have a little more faith in Auburn. But I will go South Carolina because the injuries have just gotten really tough for them. And some of it's getting better. I saw that, Will McGillis pinch ran in the midweek game. Could have possibly started that game. They decided not to. I assume that means he will be good to go or something close to it this weekend. Braylon Wimmer, it was phrased as could possibly return this weekend. That seems optimistic, but we'll have to see on that. Talmadge LeCroy is back. But on the pitching side, it's actually gotten worse. Noah Hall is still out. We haven't had a substantive update about him the entire time, so I'm pretty pessimistic that we'll see him again this year. That's based on no individual reporting. It's just based on the fact we haven't heard anything. Will Sanders is not in the rotation this weekend. He's dealing with a lower body injury, so he's getting skipped. Eli Jerzembeck, a really talented freshman, is out as well. It's been pretty vague about what his deal is. The word from Mark Kingston after the midweek game was that they're still, quote, evaluating options. I don't know about you. I don't like the way that sounds.
Nope.
So they're really kind of fighting it right now. And I think we maybe just have to come around to the idea that we're just maybe not going to see the version of South Carolina that we all got really excited about a month ago.
They look good playing LSU for 2 days. That is for sure. Tigers lose 2 out of 3 at Auburn for the first time all year. Your takeaways from that series on LSU's front?
Yeah, it was just like the worst case scenario of what can happen when you can't trust your pitching, right? That's been the theme you and I have talked about just about every week, and I think last weekend might have been the apex or the nadir, depending on how you look at it, of that pitching situation. And I've said it a bunch. I'll say it again. I totally validate any LSU fans' feelings about the pitching staff. Like, I get that's a tough way to live. I'm with you. I'll be honest. I was pretty optimistic about it at first. Now I've come down off that a little bit. I still think, look, you're in great company. I know it's not a lot of solace, but you're in great company at LSU in terms of teams having pitching questions. Other than Wake Forest, I'm not sure you can point me to a team that feels really good about its pitching right now.
Yeah.
Between the injuries and just inconsistency. It seems like the teams that you felt really good about at some point are dealing with injuries. Vanderbilt, for example, Carter Holton's a question mark this weekend. Hunter Owen just now came back. Or the teams that have been healthy, like Florida, those guys really haven't been as good as I think on paper we expected them to be. Talking about Sproat and Waldrop and Caglione, based on what he did the first couple of weeks, hasn't been that good again. So that's kind of the way college baseball is in 2023, for better or worse. And so I get that there was a scenario where LSU was a lot more certain on the mound than they are right now. But look, you still got Paul Skeens, you still got that lineup, and you just got to hope when you get into a regional, the matchups are such that maybe you can, hold Skeens for the the winner's bracket game on Saturday and then can kind of piece it together after that. So I still like this team as an Omaha team, but I understand the path has gotten a little narrower.
Obviously, Mississippi State comes in this weekend. I want to get to the big series after this, but do you think it's possible that Arkansas broke Mississippi State last weekend in a sweep in Starkville?
I think it's possible, yeah. I mean, it just looked like a team that I always hesitate to say they've quit or they're done, just because when you lose games and you're clearly not playing well, it's easy to look done, right? When you're winning, it's obviously easy to look like everybody's really locked in. That being said, though, it did look like a team that's on the verge of being out of gas or is out of gas at this point. And it's hard to blame them. I mean, they've tried everything. They've moved guys around. You know, they fired Scott Foxhall as a pitching coach. They've pushed a lot of buttons, and none of it has really worked except for that one weekend. And it was a big weekend. It was Super Bulldog weekend in Starkville, so everybody got really excited about the series win over Ole Miss. And, well, it just turns out that, Ole Miss is maybe the one team that's as flawed as Mississippi State this year in the SEC. And so that turned out to be much ado about nothing. So, yes, I generally speaking, I'm with you. It feels like maybe all the air came out of the blue last weekend.
It is absolutely showtime at the top of the SEC East this weekend. We'll start with Vanderbilt in Florida in Gainesville. Florida losing last weekend 2 out of 3 to A&M. Vanderbilt losing 2 out of 3 to Alabama. How do you handicap that series? You mentioned that Holton is a question mark for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and that only adds to kind of my general theme for this series, which is that if it becomes an offensive series, advantage Florida. Yeah. And they're also at home, which helps. But these two offenses, as good as Vanderbilt has been offensively in SEC play, and they still continue to be, batting average-wise, one of the better offenses in the league, Florida's just so stacked. I mean, it's not just the Wyatt Langford, Josh Rivera, Jack Caglione, Cade Curlin core. It's also that they continue to kind of find pieces. Like Luke Heyman was a backup catcher who, I don't know how much playing time they expected to give him, but he's just hit his way into the lineup now. And he kind of reminds me a little of Blake Burke from Tennessee last year, where it's like, now you kind of wish that he'd gotten more at-bats all along, because he's been extremely productive on a rate basis. And Tyler Shelnut is kind of the same way for them, like a JUCO transfer utility guy who has some physicality, and he's just, again, hit his way into the lineup. So they're almost getting better offensively as the season has gone along. The question, like I said, with him is pitching, but I'm not so sure that because of the uncertainty around Carter Holton, that doesn't end up being kind of a wash there. Quietly, it's not the best bullpen in the SEC, I wouldn't say, although I don't know who I'd necessarily point to right at this minute. But Florida has found a core. Now, whether or not that core is going to be good enough is another question. But between Neely and Abner and Slater and Cade Fisher, like, they found guys they trust, and those are the guys they're going to go to. And there's something to be said for that, even if you're not 100% sure you totally trust that core. I think especially this time of year, I'm sure it's going to be hot in Gainesville. I'm sure the ball is going to be jumping a little bit. I like Florida this weekend because I get the feeling that's going to turn into an offensive series. And
look, I want to kind of stick with that because I don't think the SEC is going to get 6 national seeds, top 8s. And I mean, and you look at it, and there's a lot of work to be done between 6 games and then give everybody 2 in Hoover at least. And that's like 8 games worth of resume to play with. But like, if Florida were to win 2 out of 3 here, and they would get to, at this point, they would get to 17 SEC wins with a weekend to go, and Vanderbilt would then have 18 if they lose 2 out of 3. Would you think that both of those teams would have an inside track at a top 8 at that point?
I would think so on paper. The question I've had about Florida is just that their RPI is not quite in that elite level. Right. Now, you win 2 or 3 at Vanderbilt, maybe it is. But I don't have the RPI here in front of me, but it's something like 12, I think. And that can get you a national seed. I mean, for goodness sakes, Texas A&M was 22 last year and got a national seed, but they won the SEC West. That was a little bit different. So I yes is the short answer. I think would be on the inside track there, but I'm with you generally speaking that there's just a cap to how many national seeds you're going to get from any conference, no matter how good the conference is. And the math doesn't really seem to work out to get more than 5 optimistically. That being said, the SEC has broken right in terms of getting the highest number of national seeds possible, because what you have is a cluster of teams, Vanderbilt and Florida and Arkansas and LSU, even South Carolina and Kentucky to some degree, that are kind of all pushing for that. And then you don't really have a lot below that, but then you've got the bubble teams that really aren't, I mean, if they got hot, they could host, I guess. But then you've got a group of bubble teams that are probably just going to be 2 seeds. And so there's not really much of a jumble there. You've got teams that are all could be top 8, and then you've got the bubble. And so that math tends to be a little more favorable because you don't have teams that are kind of hovering around hosting. It's all teams that are in position right now or just clearly out of the mix.
Florida's RPI 10 as we sit here today, so it's knocking on the door. Kentucky and Tennessee, kind of what you're talking about there. We're talking about potentially Kentucky having a laughably high RPI and maybe missing the tournament because they lost 7 weekends in a row, and they show up and sweep South Carolina, and the RPI is 1. And now we're saying, well, could they host or be a top 8? And they head to Knoxville this weekend. How do you handicap that one?
I mean, isn't it so absurd that the difference between, being on the bubble and having to sweat out selection day and like knocking on the door of a national seed is ultimately just like 4 wins?
Yep.
I mean, it's insane, truly insane. I mean, and there's a part of me that I like watching this Kentucky team play just from the standpoint of they play baseball very differently than anyone else in this league does right now. And there's something to be said for that just from a strictly entertainment product value. I am kind of disappointed, though, that we're not going to get to see what happens if, say, Kentucky went 12-18 in the conference and had an RPI of 4, what they would do with that. I mean, they wouldn't have hosted. That's not what I'm suggesting. But it's like, would that have been an at-large team? Like, maybe. And if not, that would have really broken precedent, right? So now that's obviously off the table. Here's the thing. If Kentucky can do the things it did last weekend against South Carolina, which they're on the road in Knoxville, that's obviously a game changer, and we understand it was a very compromised version of South Carolina. But if they can do those same things this weekend, I think they've got a really good shot. I picked them in our picks for D1 baseball this week because I think I get the feeling this team has actually turned a little bit of a corner. I think we got really down on them when they lost 4 series in a row and kind of forgot that sure, they were winning games early in the season because they were playing the soft side of their SEC schedule, but they were also playing really well. And if they keep the ball in the ballpark, you're not going to keep it in the ballpark all weekend in Knoxville this time of year against that lineup. But if you can minimize, make it solo home runs, not 3-run homers, keep the ball on the ground, which their pitchers tend to be kind of sinker ball guys, keep the ball on the ground as much as you can. And if you can make contact and not have games where you strike out 15, 16, 17 times and force Tennessee's defense to make plays, I think there's an opportunity there. It's not the most elite defensive squad. The right side is particularly susceptible with, Christian Moore and Blake Burke over there. If you can push some bunts that direction, I think, you can have some success. So if Kentucky does the things Kentucky does, they're going to be in this series. That being said, if Tennessee just ends up squaring up a bunch of balls, that's going to be problematic for the Wildcats.
Last one here. South Carolina is at Arkansas based on the injury concerns and the way that South Carolina's played the last couple of weeks. I don't imagine you love their chances up at Baum.
Yeah, I don't love it. I mean, especially when you consider, Arkansas is dealing with a lot of the same stuff that South Carolina is, and yet Arkansas has dealt with it marvelously, and South Carolina just has not. Arkansas is like, outside of that one weekend against Georgia, Arkansas is just kind of like, it's like water off a duck's back. It's just like, whatever, like we're just going to keep on plugging here. And they're kind of quietly, they're getting a little bit healthier on the mound. Brady Tiger is back. They found some guys. Gage Wood has been electric as a freshman out of the bullpen. So that's all positive. The position player stuff, though, is lingering a little bit. I thought there was a chance Jared Wagner would be back this weekend. It's sounding more and more. Dave Van Hort had a media availability this morning, and I saw some quotes from it. It sounds more and more like maybe he's not going to play this weekend. Same thing with Tavian Josenberger. All we really heard on that is that he's, quote, looking pretty good, something like that. I'm not really sure exactly what that means. Maybe the question context would have helped. But Peyton Stovall is also not really expected to play this weekend. So position player group is still pretty beat up. But that being said, I have a lot more trust that Arkansas is going to keep fighting through this because, again, outside of that one weird weekend against Georgia, they've just done that.
All right, Joe, last one. I'll kind of put you on the spot a little bit here. LSU's 3 in the RPI. They're 16-7 in the league. Their strength of schedule is 11. They've got 14 quad 1 wins. We got 6 SEC games to go before Hoover. How many does LSU have to win to be a top 8 seed when they get to Hoover and don't have to do anything there?
All right, so recap some of that for me. They're 16-7, right?
Yep, number 3 in the RPI.
3 in RPI. They've 6 games left. Run down their series because I get them.
LSU's got Mississippi State at home this weekend, and then they will go to Georgia next weekend.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think 16-7. I think if you get 4 of them, you're feeling great. I think 3 of them, you get to 19-11, and your RPI is still like top 5, and it would be at that point. I think you're all right. Now, with that schedule, I think they're probably going to win 4 or more, and we're not even having the discussion at the end of that last weekend. But even with 3, I think you're in pretty decent shape.
That's the question we wanted answered. I've contended I don't care if you're 1 or 8. It's all the same to me. Some people would prefer to get closer to the top, and then some people don't want to be number 1 because nobody's won it since '99. So I get the whole thing, but I just keep me in the top 8, keep me at the box until Omaha, and we'll have a good shot to get on there. So, Joe, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the baseball this weekend, man.
All right, you too, buddy. Talk to you soon.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, Highway to Hoover podcast. Awesome D1 Baseball preview podcast they put out today. We'll preview every single weekend, just massive amounts of baseball over the weekend. And we're now in crunch time where we got to start looking at Wake Forest, and we got to start looking at Indiana State and Boston College and Duke, and we'll start doing that next week. The Tigers can really put things at ease this weekend if they play really good baseball this weekend. Just find a way to play 3 good games. Win 3 games against a Mississippi State team that's reeling, that's been swept 4 times, and you sit there at 19-7, and I think you can just pretty much throw your hands up. But we'll see. We'll talk about LSU and Mississippi State tomorrow. Always enjoy our chats with Joe Healy, so thanks for him for jumping aboard. We'll take a timeout. We got 30 minutes left on this Thursday. Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Home in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We start to look to LSU, Mississippi State at the box. Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball stops by. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I try not to lie to you. More often than not, I don't. I'm pretty truthful, pretty candid. And kind of understand my strengths and where I'm not quite as strong. Come 2 weeks from now, when they're playing baseball in Hoover, I'll be able to look at LSU's RPI. I'll be able to look at their strength of schedule. I'll be able to look at their Quadrant 1 wins, their road record, their conference record and standing. I'll be able to compare it to some of the other teams around the country and around the conference and give you a fairly educated guess on what's coming in LSU's postseason future. Last year, there was a lot of speculation that LSU, once they swept in Nashville, was going to be a regional host. And I kind of looked at the metrics and went, that's not what the metrics say. And they weren't. That I feel confident in doing. Some of the things that we talk about on this show, I'm not as confident in and don't understand quite as well. And let's get into one of those right now. Foster Morrow's contract details are out for the New Orleans Saints. I understand a 3-year contract worth $12 million. Of that, $8 million is guaranteed. We knew that yesterday. And I get it. And we know that the Saints perform an amazing amount of salary cap gymnastics in order to fill out their roster while figuring out the dollars back in Kai Harley's cave somewhere. So maybe some of you who are a little more inclined on how this works will understand it as I read the reports of how this is going to be structured, but it should come as no surprise to you that of that $8 million guaranteed, Foster Moreau is not going to be a significant cap hit to the New Orleans Saints roster. Let me tell you how it's going to go per Field Yates. The Saints gave Morrow a $3.5 million signing bonus, which can be prorated over the life of the contract. So you don't have to account for that right away. Then the Saints put 2 void years on the 3-year deal, which allows them to spread that signing bonus out even further. That amounts to 5 payments of $700,000. Then they gave Morrow a $1.1 million base salary. You add that $700K on it. His cap hit in year number 1 is only $1.8 million. I kind of get it. But then again, why does the NFL allow you to sign players where there's a cap and then put money in places where it doesn't count? I'll tell you this. When I got to LSU, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. They asked me when I came to orientation, what's your major? I said, I don't have a major. I'm just going to go watch the football team play. Major? I have no idea. It's June. I just graduated high school. It's not a very smart way to go about things, but it's the way that I thought. So I got into business after a year. And I started taking finance and accounting, and folks, not great. So whenever I see these deferred bonuses and prorated things and, things that have expanded throughout the life of the I start looking at these things and my eyes start rolling back in my head. It's like, oh my gosh, numbers. I cannot deal with the numbers. And Kai Harley obviously loves the numbers, lives in the numbers, does a great job with the numbers, helps the Saints a lot with the numbers. You know who will not be taking Kai Harley's job one day? Me. Because that is accounts receivable and payable. I got friends that are accountants. They've worked for the Big Four. They've worked in private stuff. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. Business classes, not good for me. Now you start getting in journalism classes where there's no right answer. You just do your work and turn it in. Here's my story. Here's my project. Here's my piece. Here's my column. Start doing that. There's no right answer. Now you've really got something. That's where I can make actual grades. And man, the whole deal with the Saints doing the salary cap gymnastics and getting everybody under the cap, even though they're bajillions of dollars over the cap, because they can prorate the signing bonus and some of these words. I'm just like, I feel like an idiot. RPI in baseball, I got it. Your record, your opponent's record, your opponent's record, strength of schedule, got it. Conference record, got the numbers in that pie chart and that Excel spreadsheet I can handle. If you gave me one look at the Saints salary cap, I can tell you this. Foster Moreau is a wealthy guy in my eyes. He's doing pretty well. He's fairly fresh out of college. Just been out about 4 years. What it sounds like he's making sounds like he's doing pretty well for himself. And I'm really happy about that. And also, as we talked about yesterday, the Saints are a perfect fit for him, and he's a perfect fit for the Saints. So that is awesome, awesome stuff. And if you want to try to figure out the details, you can check out Field Yates' report from ESPN. He's got all the details right there. All right, we got one more time out here on this Thursday. We're going to play some Take It or Leave It. They got some NBA flavor in Take It or Leave It today. We got a little clothing in Take It or Leave It today. We got a little dinner plans for next week. Take It or Leave It. There's plenty to get to here on Take It or Leave It, so come back with us on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Turn my music high, 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 high. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. from the original Walk-Ons on Burbank. Colucci time as well. That's Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday from Walk-Ons on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I follow the Iowa Cubs on Twitter. That's the Cubs AAA affiliate. And sent out their player of the game from today, Jake Slaughter, former Tiger. He was 2 for 4 today with a double, a homer, and 2 driven in. Jake Slaughter is killing the ball for AAA Iowa in the Cubs organization. They've played 23 games thus far. He's hitting .299. He's getting on base at a .382 clip. But in 23 games, he's got 6 homers and 31 driven in. He's been fantastic. The problem for Jake is he's 26 and killing the ball in AAA. The Cubs infield is really crowded. They've got Patrick Wisdom playing third, who's got over 10 home runs and has been great for him. They've got all-stars up the middle with Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner. Then at first base, they just called up Matt Mervis, who's been awesome in AAA. They've got Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer, who are veterans there. And then Chris Morrell they just called up, who's been even better than Slaughter at AAA. So there's just not any room right now with the Cubs. That also doesn't include Nick Madrigal, who was a former top 5 pick who they acquired in a trade 2 years ago. So Jake continues to kill the ball, but I just don't see any room for him in Chicago, which is a real bummer for a guy who's having his best season as a minor league player. So all the best to Jake. I hope he continues to crush it. But it's hard for me to see, barring a couple of injuries, like if Wisdom and Morrell went down, like that, he would probably be next up. And not that y'all want to get into too much Cub stuff, but I'm just telling you, a former Tiger who's knocking on the door of the big leagues, which would be another player from that LSU Oregon State 2-game set in Omaha that LSU won both of, that would make the big leagues. I just don't see the spot for him. But hopefully, I don't hope Cubs get hurt, but I hope Jake Cubs continues to swing the bat. All right, Jake, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Indeed, let's. First one here. Defending champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, will be opening the season on Thursday night against the Detroit Lions. Take it or leave it.
I'm telling you, the Lions are like America's team now. They had Hard Knocks. Everybody likes Dan Campbell with the taking kneecap off press conferences, and because the Lions have never harmed anyone, at least the Detroit ones, no one has any ill feelings toward the Lions. Like the Bears hate the Packers, and everybody is mad at the Vikings because they won last year, and Cousins is a little bit unlikable at times. Like nobody has any ill will towards the Lions, so everyone kind of wants them to win. I don't know how fired up everyone is to watch them play football on the opening night. They'd probably rather a little bit of a higher profile team take on Mahomes and the Chief, but I think that tells you a little bit about how people feel about the Lions, putting them on an opening night.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, that's going to be an entertaining game. The Lions, I think, are going to be surprised. I don't know if they can surprise anyone. They had a pretty good season last year from what people expected. Yeah, good finish. So, all right. Notre Dame's exclusive negotiating window with Under Armour has expired. Arguably, college football's most valuable brand in the open market. Notre Dame is the most valuable brand in college sports. Take it or leave it.
Man, I'd probably have to take it, honestly.
I'll take it.
They don't have the cachet they did have when they were the only ones with the national television contract. But because they had the national television contract, they built a nationwide following. And there are some people that pull for Notre Dame because they're Catholic. I mean, you could, I guess, pull for Boston College or Xavier, whoever. But I think Notre Dame is a nationwide team. I am personally a product of a national television contract. I'm a Cubs fan because of their TV contract in the 90s with WGN. A lot of people have that with Notre Dame. So, there are a lot of brands that win more and are just as visible during the season. But in terms of having nationwide appeal, I think Notre Dame may be. And if they can get Nike and Adidas back to the negotiating table and with Under Armour and get everybody to start bidding, then, maybe that's more lucrative for them. We shall see. But I think they are.
Defending PGA champion Justin Thomas told Smiley Kaufman, LSU alum, that his entire Champions Dinner will be made by Rouse, the legendary NYC restaurant. Take it or leave it.
So it's Rayo's, but that's okay.
Rayo's,
You're not going to get a table there because it's a mob restaurant that They don't even take reservations. People have standing tables.
I've seen their
they come
sauce
every
at the grocery
It's
stores.
very good. Me and the bride use it once a week. No sugar. It's awesome marinara sauce. But it's a restaurant in New York City. There's one in Vegas too, but it's real exclusive. And obviously JT has worked his way in to get a table there at Rayo's, and I've driven by it, little red restaurant in the corner over there. But I think it's a flex by JT. This is not as prestigious a dinner as the Masters Champions dinner, but the PGA Championship has created one for the week of their tournament. And for him to come in, he laid out all the dishes on Smiley's podcast. Got a bunch of chicken dishes, some meatballs, some veal. They got the New York style cheesecake they're having as well. So look, it's not the same as the Masters where you kind of bring your hometown flavor to the Champions dinner. This is one, and he obviously loves Rayo's, so he's going with it. I'm for it, and I think Rayo's has awesome tomatoes, that marinara sauce, which we use once a week.
Former Saints tight end Jimmy Graham tells the Pat McAfee show that he's currently living on a sailboat. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. I've never been on a yacht, but I would be able to spend some significant time on a yacht with, bedrooms and a bar and a kitchen and a staff and that whole thing like that. That I could do. I could do the yacht life. The sailboat life, I don't think is going to be for me. One, I don't know how to work it. Two, I don't trust the wind's going to send me in the right direction. This is another fundamental misunderstanding I have probably is about sailboats. I don't understand salary cap or accounting or finance or sailboats.
They usually have motors on them.
Do they? Okay,
yeah.
That's good. However, I don't want to operate the motor because I don't want to do that either. The sailboat life's not going to be for me. I'm not a former Pro Bowler at the NFL level and don't have the funds currently to purchase a high-tech sailboat. So I don't have to worry about this issue, but it's not going to be for me. If I've got Jimmy Graham's money, I'm going to be on land in a home that has a foundation and a roof, and that's where we're gonna push off from. So sailboat life not going to be me. But Jimmy, if that's what you want to do, get after it, boss. That's great news. Got Miami ties. We'll see. All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Thursday. If you missed any of the show, on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. Jake Beck does an awesome job of cutting up our segments and posting them to my YouTube account. We've got a couple now. We've got Hunt on LSU, which would be LSU football. We got Hunt on Saints. If you missed my Saints segment earlier today, talking about the schedule release tonight, you can find that on Hunt on Saints. Went through everything I think about the potential of the Saints schedule this evening. Stefan Krajisnik was great in hour number one, talking about where Mississippi State baseball is right now. We'll break them down on tomorrow's show, but where they are right now, and Stefan was great this afternoon at 1:15. I went through my SEC baseball power rankings. Guess what? LSU's number one this week, even off a loss to Auburn. So go check that out. 11 LSU football players going to Senegal. Talked about that at the hour. Top of hour number two. Joe Healy, part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team, joined us at 2:15 in his normal spot. And then we'll Foster Morrow contract detail here on this Thursday edition. Excited to preview LSU and Mississippi State tomorrow, and we'll know what the Saints schedule looks like. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Jimmy Ott's Game Time tonight, 6 to 8. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further View. See you tomorrow for an edition brought to you by Corks. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.